Okay, there we go. Let's do a quick overview. Let's do a quick live show of what will be happening this week. Give me a moment so everybody that does want to join in can be doing so now, and then we can start to discuss what will be next this week. I'm very sorry if there is like some noise on the background, but I can't do much about it. I hope it's not too loud. I hope it's doable. Um, I see the first people dropping in here, so that's absolutely amazing. We can just start discussing what I want to do because I think for this week it is going to be important to discuss with each other what will be happening here next week because we have quite the amazing week ahead of us with some big events. Of course, the Powell speech later today. That is something that will always be causing a lot of volatility. But there are also a few other things we should be discussing before we're going to dive into the meeting. So today I wanted to take a moment for exactly that. Quickly discuss what I think of upcoming meeting because tomorrow we will be diving into some labor market data, and the day after we are already at the FOMC meeting. So I thought this could be a quick moment where we might discuss a few things that might still be a little bit uncertain to for some people. So yeah, let's just discuss those things. We check if everything is working. Yeah, Laurent, nice to have you back. Nice to have you here. Absolutely amazing. And this is also just a live show for the people to watch back later. I will fully upload this one to YouTube also because I know at this time not a lot of people are going to be tuning in or do have the time to watch because for most people European time zone it's still morning, so probably on the Monday they have also a lot of other stuff to do. But I think it's going to be important then to watch this one back a little bit later, so you're going to be updated of what will be happening here. I just uploaded today's video also, where we extensively discussed the Bitfinex longs. So make sure to check this one out. This signal predicted every crypto relief rally because that has been the case with the Bitfinex longs now touching a very important level, and the candle flipping red, flipping negative here. So that is quite an important signal actually. We have Bitcoin grinding against the yearly open ahead of this next FOMC on Wednesday. I think Bitcoin is looking quite strong actually. We are coming in strong on the Monday, which is looking good. Yeah, very positive about that to be honest, because I saw Bitcoin dumping yesterday evening, and then I was quite surprised by the bounce we saw back up. We do know that the yearly open is a very important support level. I also discussed it once again in today's video, so make sure to check it out. Very important support level or resistance level, the yearly open, and usually rejection or a break above it can be quite decisive for the next moves for Bitcoin from off that level. Because usually we do see quite big moves happening from off the yearly open, can both be up and down. But that's why I think it is going to be important to reclaim it ASAP, because you can clearly see how much consolidation you usually see surrounding these levels. So yeah, interesting for Bitcoin. But I think what we have ahead of us here with the FOMC, where a lot of stuff can actually still be happening, because let's look into this tweet here. Because what we have upcoming this week is going to be quite insane. Like stated, tomorrow we have the jobs job openings data. So we have a jobs report dropping just before the FOMC tomorrow, which is also going to be the last data point we will get before heading into the meeting itself and before heading in the rate cut decision. If you now look into the rate cut decision odds, or just into the odds, we can see that there is still a high chance of a 25 BPS rate cut here. Here an 87% chance of a 25 BPS rate cut we still have here, and this jobs report could be having an effect on these odds. We could drop extra slight low, we could fully price it in. Those are going to be the possibilities, but it is a little bit more important than usual because it drops so shortly before the FOMC. Like stated here, the expectation for the jobs report is 7.2 million. Below 7.2 million means the weakening of the job market, means there's more room to cut rates, and that's going to be bullish. But on the other hand, it is getting priced in here at the current moment, but just know that that data will probably be causing quite some volatility before that FOMC itself is actually going to hit. On December the 10th, we have the FOMC itself then. So let's look what will be happening. What will be happening there? Then we have the rate cut decision, like stated, with a high probability that the Fed is going to cut rates with 25 basis points once again. Here we talk about 94 because on poly market the odds are actually a little bit higher that the Fed will be cutting rates, 25 basis points here, 94 poly market, and at FOMC Fed Watch we have 87. Trade PA, good morning, nice to have you here. So yeah, then we have the rate cut decision itself. Rate cut is mostly priced in, so it won't move the market by that much. So the thing we are going to be looking into is Powell's speech itself, because that is going to cause the volatility, if there will be a lot of volatility. But what we saw coming out lately is that the Bank of America expects Powell to hint at reserve management purchases, which means that fresh liquidity will be hitting the markets to stabilize small bank funding stress. Because what we have lately seen, if we dive into that, here we go. Let's see if I can find the most recent post. Should be able to find it here. Banking. Yes, what we saw lately is that the Fed started to pump in money to the overnight repurchase agreement system because the banking system was experiencing some liquidity stress. So we start to see an inflow of liquidity from the Fed, and now there's an expectation that this is actually going to continue over the next year, and that Powell could be hinting at something like that. And that is also going to be the start of somewhat of QE. It is not exactly what QE is. QE is a little bit different than what we are seeing here. But because of the banking liquidity stress, it could most definitely be a start of that. So that is going to be the most interesting thing from that Powell speech, because the hint about that could be quite massive for the market, and it is also going to be our first insight of 2026. I feel like eating a big steak this afternoon. I feel like doing the same. But it's also going to be our first insight into 2026. And I think the market is highly anticipating that, exactly. If we can get a little bit more clarity about what will be happening there and how the monetary policy is actually going to look like, if Powell can be hinting on something like that, I think it can definitely be driving the market both much higher but also lower. So that's going to be interesting. But if he sounds hawkish, similar to the last FOMC meeting, Bitcoin altcoins could also dump. So the conclusion of all of this is that the Powell speech itself is most definitely going to be the most important thing. Do you think we are on a bear market and going lower? I think on the bear perspective, the trend is most definitely down for Bitcoin. I think the price action of the last or the next 2 to 3 weeks will tell us a lot about what we are trading in. But the bigger trend is most definitely down at the current moment. But like stated, a Powell speech and new expectations about the monetary policy for 2026 could be changing a lot. But the general trend for now, looking at just the price data, I think we're in a bear market. You can't really deny. Why are you ignoring my message? I don't know what you're talking about, to be honest. I don't know where you did message me on, to be honest. Just let me know in the chat and then I will look into it. But if Powell sounds dovish and says that inflation is calming, tariffs haven't changed that, and labor market is softening, it will give markets the green light to expect more cuts. Of course, also another very important thing, are we going to see more rate cuts in 2026 itself? Coming back to the monetary policy itself, for Jan, it's actually not expected. Traders are pricing it in for March, I think, or then there is the biggest chance that the rates are going to be lower in March than up until April. But for now, the market is not really pricing in a lot of cuts for next year. But of course, it is quite early to be predicting that. But yeah, that is what we're looking into now. Because we need to remember that now this is the last cut of this year, also the last FOMC of this year. In 2024, we also saw 3 rate cuts in the last 3 meetings of the year. So that could also be repeating once again, that they're going to fall back into the stay point standpoint, now we wait a little bit. We do want to see where inflation is going to be heading towards. That's also going to be a possible scenario for the Fed, that they will indeed be a little bit more hawkish. I would not be that surprised if that's going to happen, but that is why it's going to be such interesting speech, because we have quite some we've quite some opportunities here and quite some different scenarios that could still be playing out. Then on December the 11th, we have the PPI inflation data releasing, but this is happening after the FOMC itself. So that's why I don't think it will be as important as the data just before the FOMC, because now we are just looking into the decision on that day itself, where they're probably going to cut rates once again. But I think the PPI data won't be that important because the next FOMC is so far ahead. But we can still be seeing if inflation keeps on cooling down, or if inflation is at some moment going to be heating up again. Looking into the inflation itself, into the true inflation indicator, for example, we can see that inflation seems to be heating up a very little bit at the current moment. 2.5% here, true inflation, US inflation index. I think it has been heating up by a very small amount over the last few days here. Yeah, it's heating up ever so slightly by 0.1 percentage point. It's not that big of a problem. But yeah, like stated, don't think the PPI will matter that much. We are looking into Powell's speech. Are they going to be dovish or hawkish? I think both are still possible. The conclusion is, if Powell delivers a dovish message and softer inflation, Bitcoin could break out of this range and altcoins could finally catch a trend. If he turns hawkish, there will be more pain in the markets. And I do agree with exactly that, because also if you look into the Bitcoin chart, and I find that one very interesting to quickly show how important it actually is, this next rate cut decision. If you look into the local, or just, it seems like now the cycle top for Bitcoin, which was on the 6th of October here. There we can see, if we zoom back into those rate cut odds, was it the 6th actually? Yeah. The rate cut odds were at 75%, and then they rise to 89 at the 28th of October. So let's mark that one also. That was basically this local top for Bitcoin. We were indeed in a downtrend at that exact moment, but I don't think that was too weird, because we saw a major liquidation event here also. But this was basically the top for the rate cut odds. Here we were looking into 19%. And then we saw that big decrease of the probabilities of a 25 basis points rate cut. And there we saw Bitcoin falling quite hard to the downside, of course, before bouncing up exactly at the moment where also those rate cut probabilities started to bounce back up again. So you can see how liquidity driven the market currently is, and how much traders and the markets are basically awaiting more clarity about the monetary policy itself. I think this also gets very clear on the altcoins chart itself. If we go to the regular here, regular one, if we then have others divided by Bitcoin, and we overlay it with the Fed balance sheet, this one, the Fed balance sheet, there we go. What we can see is that during the periods of QT, which I will quickly outline now. QT started somewhere around here. And during the periods of QT, we've basically seen altcoins trending down here. And now we've seen exactly the same happening here. Actually, here we did top out before QT actually got started, but of course at the announcement itself. So this is what we see during QT for altcoins, as first Bitcoin. And if we then look into what happened once, of course, QE got started, that was this moment, and we saw altcoins entering a big uptrend. Boom. Boom. That was QE. Then if we go back to 2017, indeed there was not QE, but there also was not QT, and that's going to be interesting to remember. But we still saw an altcoin season there. But I think could be the explanation of why we did see an altcoin season here with basically a neutral balance sheet was that we had far less altcoins here. So it was much easier for the market cap to indeed trend high because we could concentrate the funds on a smaller amount of altcoins. I think that really helped in this phase. And also if you ask and remember about that altcoin season, the thing always is, everybody talking about this, that all altcoins were indeed pumping at that phase. That wasn't the case in 2021 actually, but there we did saw QE. So we had far and far more liquidity available. That liquidity eventually is going to hunt for high yields. It's going to move higher up until the up in the yield curve. So the liquidity is going to find assets that could be providing trades with a high yield, that could be providing trades with a high return, and that is why we saw a massive altcoin season there, but also a major asset bubble over global markets basically after COVID and QE got started. Here we got insane inflation, so that was when the Fed decided to end QE and head over to QT once again, and also of course hiking the rates back up, but that's not what we're looking into. We're looking into the balance sheet now. They're starting to basically adapt to a very tight monetary policy here with draining liquidity out of the system. Then we saw a large period of QT here, and we saw altcoins bleeding during the entire period. And it's not like altcoins don't want to move higher or something, because if you look into this, basically this entire downtrend, you can see that there are some short periods of outperformance for altcoins, very short periods of outperformance, but they are not sustainable because I think there's not enough liquidity available to see a move like this. There are not enough investors willing to invest with tight liquidity conditions, and they don't really have a reason to be hunting for higher yields when they can be doing so at other places when the rates are high, of course. When the rates are going to be lower, it gets less interesting to be in treasuries and a lot of stuff. So yes, I think doing a period of QE once again, that is going to be where it gets interesting to invest in altcoins again. There we will probably see the others first Bitcoin pair starting to move higher once again. And that is going to be the phase where I get truly interested into opening new positions, accumulating more altcoins once again. And that's also going to be the standpoint I will be taking in on the channel for the next few weeks, months. It really depends for me on when the Fed is going to give us more clarity. And at that exact moment, we will have our game plan and we are going to execute on it. But that's why this meeting is going to be so super important. Because it's always, of course, this is the most important meeting up until the next one. But I truly think by this meeting, we haven't seen so much uncertainty about the monetary policy yet and so much different probabilities of what could be happening next year, because the Fed could still be taking a very hawkish standpoint or they could remain dovish. And then we did not even talk about what's going to be happening in 2026, because of course Powell is going to... Powell won't be the Fed chair anymore in the middle of 2026, and according to Polymarket, it seems like, let me quickly check that, where we have that one, that Trump is going to nominate Hassett to become the next Fed chair. So there we have another interesting development, because Kevin Hassett is believed to be somewhat of a puppet from Trump. That means that Hassett is likely to be wanting to cut rates quite aggressively. And yeah, if that is going to be the case, we are going to have a massive year for assets, probably. And we are going to have a major asset bubble. And we might even see QE getting started indeed. With Hassett. But yeah, still a lot of uncertainty and a lot of different stuff could be happening here. But one thing I know for certain, it is going to be a fairly interesting year. And I'm looking forward to see what will be happening here. And let me check if this is everything I wanted to discuss. Because like I said, this is was just a preparation of what we have ahead of us here for the next few days.
And let me check if the
Okay. Let me check. We did discuss most of this, of course, in the update video. All of the stuff we have ahead of us. If there is going to be something very important happening later today, or just before the Fed, or some economic data which we need to discuss, of course I will be live once again, because I will be I'm going to be very sharp on everything that's going to happen around this. We have been live streaming all of it, PCA, US labor market, etc., etc. Make sure that if you do want to be trading yourself, that you can still be claiming this bonus on LBank, 50% deposit bonus up to 2.5k, and the generous refund up to 5k. So make sure to come and check it out. If you're getting interested in that, you can find this with that link in the description on this live stream to open your first trading position potentially. And in my personal opinion, it is in no way financial advice, but it's always good to have basically some firepower ready just before we have some important stuff incoming, because we could be getting quite some interesting trading opportunities. And I must say, Bitcoin is looking quite strong here actually at the 91k level. So yeah, let's see where we could be heading next here. It is going to be interesting. And I think that was it for today. If there are going to be some other very important things, make sure to also come over to the VIP group, because there I can be updating on them much quicker than I can be doing so on YouTube itself. And yeah, then I think we discussed the most important stuff. Do you guys still have some questions? Make sure to drop them now. Also, I would highly suggest you reading this post we did put out on Crypto Rover yesterday, because this is basically the perfect explanation of why this week is going to be so important, and why this is indeed different than what we have seen. From the last FOMC meetings. Okay, I see no new questions coming in. If there are some, make sure to come over to the VIP channel, ask your question there. I will be active there later in the day also. For now, I hope it's clear what we have ahead of us. If there's going to be something very important, I will be quickly live once again. And for now, I will be ending today's very short live show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys did learn something from it. If you do want to continue stay watching more crypto content, make sure to come over to my channel and watch today's update video here. I just uploaded about an hour ago. Make sure to check this one out also if you do want some more crypto content to be looking at, because we discussed quite some interesting stuff in today's update video also. So make sure to go and check it out if you're getting interested in that. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you so much for watching again. And I will see you. I think I will see you later again in another live streams this week. I will be playing them in today. Okay, perfect. I will see you there. Guys, have an amazing morning, afternoon, evening. Enjoy. I will see you guys in the next one.